How are you guys doing? Today is Saturday, December 26, 2020, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to cover the elite performances from the NFL last night, along with yesterday's Christmas games, and of course, everything that kind of fills in between. But starting with football yesterday, the New Orleans Saints hosted the Minnesota Vikings and were able to beat them 52-33. And as a Christmas present to New Orleans, Alvin Kamara tied an NFL record, scoring 6 touchdowns on Christmas Day, all on the ground. And with this win, the Minnesota Vikings were eliminated from playoff contention, and the New Orleans Saints are currently knocking at the door of the Green Bay Packers, the number one team in the NFC. In this game, the New Orleans Saints were up 24-14 after the first half. And in the second half, they outscored them 24-19. Just big game from beginning to end for the New Orleans Saints, as they were, of course, fighting for their playoff positioning, and they showed that they did, of course, in last night's game. For the Minnesota Vikings, their starting quarterback Kirk Cousins would complete 27 of his 41 passes, throwing for 291 yards and 3 touchdowns. On the ground, their leading rusher was Dalvin Cook, who had 73 yards on 15 carries and a touchdown. He also had 12 yards on 2 receptions in the air to give him 85 total yards of offense to go along with his 1 rushing touchdown of the day. Mike Boone also had 4 yards on one carry, as he had a touchdown for the day as well. Through the air, their leading receiver was Adam Thielen, who had 97 yards on 8 receptions and a touchdown. Their rookie Justin Jefferson had 85 yards on 6 receptions. And then Irv Smith Jr. would finish with 53 yards on 6 receptions and 2 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, Blake Lynch would lead the team in tackles. He had 10 of them on the day, as the team didn't log in a sack for the entire game. But their elite safety Harrison Smith would finish with 18 tackles as well. On the defensive side of the ball, of course, Handy Nickerson would finish with an interception, as that would be a big win for him. And then Harrison Hand would finish with an interception as well. Big game from both those guys, but it simply wasn't enough. For the New Orleans Saints, their goated quarterback Drew Brees would complete 19 of his 26 passes for 311 yards and 2 interceptions. Taysom Hill was also 2 for 2, as he threw for 8 yards on the day. Their leading rusher was Alvin Kamara, their really elite running back, who finished with 155 yards on 22 carries and 6 touchdowns for the Saints. An NFL record. Of course, he did so on Christmas Day, so of course that was his Christmas present to the city of New Orleans. Latavius Murray had 72 yards on 12 carries, and Taysom Hill, in addition to his 8 passing yards, he had 18 rushing yards on 5 carries, and the other rushing touchdown of the day for the New Orleans Saints. Through the air, their leading receiver was Emmanuel Sanders, who had 83 yards on 4 receptions, and Jared Cook had 82 yards on 3 receptions for the day. On the defensive side of the ball, Demario Davis had 8 tackles, as he led the entire team. Cameron Jordan had a sack. David Onyemata and Malcolm Jenkins would also share a sack, as the Saints only got 2 sacks on the day. But in the end, it was a big win for the New Orleans Saints. With this 52-33 win, the New Orleans Saints currently sit atop the NFC South with an 11-4 record. I'm not sure if they clinched the division yet, but of course, actually no, with this win they did clinch the division, because they would still, even if Tampa Bay were to tie them, New Orleans still has the tiebreaker. Right now, New Orleans currently sits second in the NFC playoff picture. They are half a game behind the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are 11-3, and they are half a game ahead of the 10-4 Seattle Seahawks right now as the playoff stands. And with this loss, the Minnesota Vikings dropped to 6-9 in the AFC North. And with this loss, they have officially been eliminated from playoff contention, as the 7th seed in the NFC is 8-6. And mathematically, the Vikings cannot catch them this season with 1 more game left to play. That's what's going on with the NFL. Jumping into today's NFL games to show you what's going on. At 1 o'clock, the 5-9 Detroit Lions host the 5-9 Detroit Lions host the 9-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Lions are out of playoff contention, but the Buccaneers are right now sitting in the 6th spot in the wild card, as they have a lot to fight for, of course, this week. At 4:30, the 8-6 Arizona Cardinals, sitting 7th in the NFC, are going to face off against the San Francisco 49ers, as the Niners are eliminated from the playoff contention, but they could ruin the season for the Cardinals. And then at 8:15, the 7-7 Oakland Raiders, who are still fighting for a playoff spot, are going to face off against the 9-5 Miami Dolphins, who are also fighting for a playoff seed. The Miami Dolphins could eliminate the Las Vegas Raiders from playoff contention today. That's what's going on with football. Really quickly, I'm going to jump to basketball, and since all the games were mainstream games, They were all switching between ABC and ESPN. I'm just going to go through them all in order. Starting with the first game of the night, the Miami Heat they were hosts to the New Orleans Pelicans, and they were able to beat them 111-98 in their first game of the season. For the Pelicans, going through their starters, of course, their small forward Brandon Ingram would finish with 28 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and he made 10 of his 11 free throws. And their leading scorer was their elite forward Zion Williamson, who'd finish with 32 points and 14 rebounds in 38 minutes, as he shot 11 for 20 from the field and 10 for 15 from the free throw line. For the Miami Heat, they're off the bench. Goran Dragic finished with 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 steals, as he shot 6 for 11 from the field. And then out of their starters, their center Bam Adebayo would finish with 17 points and 4 rebounds, shooting 5 for 9 from the field and 7 for 8 from the free throw line. Their leading scorer was Duncan Robinson, who had 23 points on 5 rebounds, shooting 8 for 14 from the field, 7 for 13 from 3, as he tied Kyrie Irving for a Christmas record with the most three-pointers made in a game. With this win, the Miami Heat are 1-1. Big win for them, as their next game between these with this win, the Miami Heat are 1-1. They are third in the Southeast Division, and the New Orleans Pelicans, with this win, they are 1-1. They are second in the Southwest Division so far. Jumping to the next game of the night, the Milwaukee Bucks hosted the Golden State Warriors and were able to beat them 138-39, as they kind of dominated the entire second half, barely letting the Warriors come up for air, helping the Warriors get to start their season 0-2. For the Warriors, of course, off the bench, Brad Wanamaker and Jordan Poole at 11 points each. Out of the starters, their second-round pick overall, James Wiseman, would finish with 18 points and 8 rebounds. He shot 5 for 11 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3. And their goated point guard, Steph Curry, would finish with 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. He shot 6 for 17 from the field, 2 for 10 from 3, and he made all 5 of his free throws on the day. For the Milwaukee Bucks, off the bench, Bobby Portis would have 10 points and 12 rebounds in 26 minutes. DJ Augustine, their point guard off the bench, would finish with 13 points as well in 13 minutes. Out of their starters, Drew Holiday had 12 points, DiVincenzo at 13. Their elite power forward, who was the reigning back-to-back MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, finished with 15 points, 15 rebounds, and 4 assists. He shot 4 for 14 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3, and 7 for 15 from the free throw line. And their small forward, Chris Middleton, would finish with 31 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 10 for 15 from the field, 6 for 8 from 3, and he made all 5 of his free throws. With this win, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 1-1 on the season, as they are now sitting third in their division in the Central, behind the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Indiana Pacers, as the Golden State Warriors are currently sitting last in the Pacific Division. They're the only team that's 0-2 so far in that division. Jumping out to Boston, the Boston Celtics were host to the Brooklyn Nets, and the Nets were able to beat them 129-95, following a big second half where the Brooklyn Nets outscored the Boston Celtics by 12 in the third quarter and by 19 in the fourth, 31 in the half. After the first half, after the Boston Celtics were kind of winning, but barely in the first half. Going into how Boston played, going through their starters, of course, Marcus Smart had 13 points. Their elite power forward, Jason Tatum, would finish with 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists, as he shot 9 for 22 from the field in 36 minutes. And Jaylen Brown, their shooting guard, would finish with 27 points and 8 rebounds, as he shot 11 for 25 in 31 minutes. For the Brooklyn Nets, off the bench, Karis LeVert would finish with 10 points in 9 minutes. And then going to their 2 elite starters, their goated small forward, Kevin Durant, would finish with 29 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 9 for 16 from the field in 33 minutes, 3 for 4 from 3, and 8 for 9 from the free throw line. And their elite point guard, Kyrie Irving, would finish with 37 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists, as he shot 13 for 21 from the field. He shot 7 for 10 from 3, tying Duncan Robinson's Christmas Day NBA record, and he made all 4 of his free throws on the day. With this win, the Brooklyn Nets are now 2-0 on the season, sitting at the top of the Atlantic Division. And sitting third, you have the Boston Celtics, currently 1-1 behind the 1-0 Philadelphia 76ers so far this season. Jumping out to Los Angeles, the Lakers played host to the Dallas Mavericks, and the Lakers were able to win 138 to 115. Of course, just kind of dominating from the jump. They outscored the Mavericks in basically every quarter, and they showed how much they kind of show where the gap was in the West in terms of how the Mavericks looked as an up and coming team versus the team that was already established. For the Dallas Mavericks, in their second game of the season, their point guard Trey Burke would finish with 17 points in 24 minutes. Out of their starters, Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dorian Finney-Smith would finish with 10 points each. Dwight Powell would finish with 11. Josh Richardson would finish with 17 points in 27 minutes, shooting 6 for 12 from the field. And their elite point guard, Luka Doncic, would finish with 27 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists in 34 minutes, shooting 9 for 19 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and he made 7 of his 8 free throw attempts. For the Los Angeles Lakers, off the bench, Kyle Kuzma finished with 13 points and 6 rebounds. Their power forward, Montrezl Harrell, finished with 22 points and 7 rebounds, shooting 10 for 13 from the field in 28 minutes. Out of their starters, their point guard, Dennis Schroeder, would finish with 18 points and 6 assists, shooting 7 for 11 from the field. Their goated small forward, LeBron James, would finish with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists, finishing 8 for 18 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3. And their elite power forward, Anthony Davis, would lead the team in scoring. He had 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 10 for 16 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 5 for 7 from the free throw line. With this win, the Los Angeles Lakers are 1-1 on the season following their loss to the Clippers. They're now sitting 4th in the Pacific Division right now, and sitting at the bottom of the Southwest Division, you'll find the 0-2 Dallas Mavericks. As of course, tough start for both teams. The Lakers still got to turn everything around following their initial loss to the Clippers, but of course they can get better. And the Dallas Mavericks are still sitting 0-2, but they can definitely turn everything around in their division with everything going on. And jumping to the last game of the night, the Denver Nuggets were the hosts of the Los Angeles Clippers, and in this rematch of the NBA Western Conference semifinal matchup, the Los Angeles Clippers were able to get the win. They were able to beat the Denver Nuggets 121 to 108. Of course, after dominating the first half by leading by as much as 7, they were leading by 17 in the first half. The second half was pretty close, but the Clippers were still leading by so much. For the Denver Nuggets, off the bench, their point guard Monte Morris would finish with 13 points in 30 minutes. Their shooting guard Will Barton would finish with 15 points and 5 rebounds in 29 minutes. Out of their starters, Michael Porter Jr. finished with 10 points in 23 minutes. Their point guard, Jamal Murray, would finish with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 9 for 20 from the field in 37 minutes, and also shooting 4 for 11 from 3. And their elite center, Nikola Jokic, would finish with 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists. As he shot 7 for 13 from the field, and he made 9 of his 11 free throw attempts on the night. For the Los Angeles Clippers, off the bench, their center, Ivica Zubac, would finish with 12 points as he shot 2 for 2 from the field in 19 minutes, making 8 of his 11 free throw attempts. And out of the starters, their small forward, Nick Batum, would finish with 13 points in 36 minutes, along with 10 rebounds. Their power forward, Serge Ibaka, would finish with 15 points in 21 minutes. Their goated small forward, Kawhi Leonard, would finish with 21 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals, shooting 8 for 14, 2 for 4 from 3, and making all 3 of his free throws. And their leading scorer was their elite shooting guard, Paul George, who finished with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 9 assists on the day. He shot 8 for 14 from the field in 37 minutes, shooting 5 for 9 from 3, and he made both of his free throw attempts. With this win, the Clippers are now 2-0 and sitting at the top of the Pacific Division, and with this loss, the Denver Nuggets are now 0-2 and sitting at the bottom of the Northwest Division currently as it stands. And then looking out to how the NBA is looking today, starting with the 5 o'clock game, the Memphis Grizzlies are going to host the 1-0 Atlanta Hawks. Ja Morant versus Trae Young, both young point guards who got amazing starts to their season. I'm looking just to see who can continue that streak. At 7 o'clock, the 0-1 Charlotte Hornets host the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have yet to play, following Terry Rozier's 42-point game in their last outing. At 7 o'clock, the 0-1 Detroit Pistons are going to host the 1-0 Cleveland Cavaliers in that division matchup. At 7 o'clock, the 0-1 Washington Wizards, led by Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, are going to face off against the Orlando Magic, who have now made Cole Anthony, their new franchise point guard. At 7:30, the 0-1 New York Knicks are going to host the 1-0 Philadelphia 76ers on NBA TV as Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons face off against RJ Barrett and the young New York Knicks. At 8 o'clock, the 0-1 Chicago Bulls are going to host the 1-0 Indiana Pacers after Domantas Sabonis' dominant 32-point game. At 8:30, the 1-0 San Antonio Spurs are going to host the 0-1 Toronto Raptors as DeMar DeRozan takes on his former team after the Raptors have already won their championship. At 9 o'clock, the 1-0 Utah Jazz are going to face off against the 1-0 Minnesota Timberwolves as Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell face off against Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, and the former number 1 overall pick, Anthony Edwards. At 10 o'clock on NBA TV, the 0-1 Trailblazers are going to face off against the Houston Rockets, who have yet to play their first NBA game. And at 10 o'clock, the Sacramento Kings are going to face off against the Phoenix Suns. Both teams are 1-0, looking to give the other team their first loss of the season. That's what the NBA is currently looking like. Jumping to college basketball and looking into last night's games. Starting off with the early ones. Going to the Big Ten. Unranked Minnesota was able to beat fourth-ranked Iowa 102-95 last night. Marcus Carr scored 30 points and finished with 8 assists for Minnesota, as Luka Garza scored 32 points and 17 rebounds. And Minnesota, unranked, they're now 8-1, 1-1 in the Big Ten with this win, and Iowa is now 7-2 overall and 1-1 in the Big Ten following this loss. Also, going out to East Lansing, Wisconsin was able to beat Michigan State 85-76. Wisconsin was ranked 9th, and Michigan State was ranked 12th. And in this game, Demetric Trice would finish with 29 points for Wisconsin, and Joey Hauser would finish with 27 points and 7 rebounds for Michigan State. With this loss, Michigan State is now 6-2. They're 0-2 in the Big Ten. And with this win, Wisconsin is now 8-1. They are 2-0 in the Big Ten so far this season. And then jumping out to yet another Big Ten matchup, the 4-5 Nebraska Cornhuskers lost to the 19th ranked 7-0 Michigan Wolverines. Franz Wagner would finish with 20 points and 9 rebounds, helping Michigan jump up to set their 2-0 Big Ten start. And they are still undefeated. It looks as though they might be the only undefeated team remaining in the Big Ten as of right now. So those are big games. Looking out to what's going on today, starting at 1 o'clock, unranked UCF is going to host 6th-ranked Houston on ABC. At 2 o'clock, unranked Northwestern is going to host 23rd-ranked Ohio State. At 4 o'clock, 16th-ranked UVA is going to host first-ranked Gonzaga on CBS. Virginia is 4-1. Gonzaga is 6-0. So that looks to be a very big college basketball matchup between a couple of blue bloods. And then at 4 o'clock, 18th-ranked Illinois is going to host 5-3 Indiana. So that's going to be a pretty big match between those two teams. It's going to be at 4 o'clock. And then looking out to what's going on with soccer today, because there wasn't a lot going on yesterday. Starting with the Premier League, Manchester United is going to play against Leicester City at 7:30, as those games kind of play very big in the Premier League for how it's going to finish out. Arsenal is going to face off against Chelsea in a London derby at 12:30. Manchester City is going to host Newcastle United at 3 o'clock. And that's kind of everything that's going on, because the Premier League is the only Big Five league that's currently going on today. But that's everything I need. That's everything that needs to go in. Right now, today is Saturday, December 26, 2020, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. I hope all is well. And then I'm going to catch you tomorrow following today's football games and, of course, today's basketball games. I want to thank you once again for listening to my 18.5-minute piece. But peace out. I hope all is well.